Yes, ma'am. I'd like to ask your name and what it is that you do here at Texas State University.
Hello, my name is Dr. Goldstone, and I am the director of the African American Studies program and an associate professor in history. I teach classes in the history department and in African American Studies program that deal with race and culture mostly.
Thank you. In your African American films class, we've actually went over two athletes, Jack Johnson and Jackie Robinson. Outside of their sports accomplishments, what makes them important in
What
Black
makes them,
society?
I think what makes them important in Black society, and I'll take each one of them specifically. So I think if we look at Jack Johnson, who was really one of the best boxers of his time period. I shouldn't say really was one. He was the best boxer in his time period. And the fact that he brazenly took on white fighters who didn't want to fight him because they were afraid that the myth of white supremacy would be toppled is pretty important. I think the fact that he wasn't afraid to walk around American society with white women, not as tools, but as people he said he loved. I mean, we can't be in someone's head, but I think the fact that he was willing to do that and that they literally passed a law to stop him from being in romantic relationships with white women suggests how Jack Johnson embodies the fear that so many white people had about black men and black sexuality. And I think the fact that he was an amazing boxer was sort of on the periphery of that. But I think that movie you watched, Unforgivable Blackness, where he is not apologizing for his blackness and for being a male is pretty remarkable. I think Jackie Robinson is important, especially now that the Houston Astros won the World Series in 2022, and it's the first time in 50 years that a native-born black person hasn't been in the World Series. And I think sports, as with Jack Johnson, I think sports is the gateway to, I don't think it dismantles racism, but at least allows white people to see black bodies, black men, black women as more than just workers, right? And I think if you look at someone like Jack Johnson, if you look at someone like Jackie Robinson, who used his position to speak about civil rights, who used what he could do for other black people. So it wasn't just about, I'm just going to play the sport and make money. He wanted to change how other black people experience this country. And so, he's got his own problems too. But I think it's important for people, I think it's important for black students, in specific white students in general. I think it's good for all students to learn about what black people have done in society to change the human rights issues and to make it a more equitable society for all, would be my answer.
Okay, thank you. And moving forward, we how would you say? I mean, you kind of did answer this already, but how would you say like the role of an athlete could, I guess you would say, promote civil rights or promote awareness in the black race or whatnot?
So, this is a question that keeps coming up in the class, right? Should professional athletes speak out against human rights abuses, civil rights abuses that happen continually in American society? I believe they do. They have a platform, and it's not necessarily that they should do this because they'll change, but I also think until people know what's going on, nothing is going to change, right? And so it's one of the reasons why I love LeBron. I don't like that he's with the Lakers, but it's one of the reasons why I like LeBron, Steph Curry, Naomi Osaka, because they're willing to use their platforms and their prominence to speak out against social injustices. So like when Naomi Osaka wore the face mask every day of the name of someone who had been murdered by the police, and people would ask, well, why were you doing that? And she'd say, well, because you had to look up these names, right? And I like that LeBron would wear "We Can't Breathe," or that the NBA, does it make for a more equitable society? I don't know. Until the laws are changed, I don't know that it'll make for a more equitable society, but I like that someone like LeBron is using his money to build schools and to send students to college. And I like that a lot of them are doing, Colin Kaepernick, who gave up his career because he's protesting police brutality and police murders. Is it changing the NBA or changing the NFL? There still aren't enough black coaches. And so there's not equity there, and hopefully at some point we'll get there, since 60% of the league. Anyway, I can get off on this topic. That kind of angers me. But I like that there are professional athletes who are willing to use their voice and their platform and their social media in order to speak out against what's happening to black men and black women. And I wish one thing I will say is I wish they'd speak out about other issues too. And so when I think about the immigration crisis, I wish they'd speak out about how this country treats migrants. The stunts that the governors of Florida and Texas played in sending people away. And so I at some point, I hope that they will talk about injustices that happen to all people. But we'll get there at some point. All right, anyway, I can ramble. I think my student's trying to comment.
Well, thank you, Dr. Goldstone. And again, this is Jason Riddell, and we're signing off.